My name is Martin Antonio Majano Jr. I'm originally from San Francisco, California. Uh, Lived there for about 10 years before my folks decided to get us out of the ghetto and move us into a suburb town, quiet suburb town of Petaluma. I could not wait to get away from there. It was too quiet, too sleepy. It was a very eye opening experience for me, especially when you live in such a diverse city like San Francisco, and then you move into a Manila town like Petaluma. Uh, it was the first time in my life that I had ever experienced any type of prejudice. Yeah, to be called a wetback, a spick, a beaner, and I had no clue what that meant.
What is your background, family background?
My family background, well, I always like to preface that I consider myself American. I was American born. That's where I'm from. I think any American that was born here needs to really accept that first, because everything else is secondary. But as far as my ethnic background, my folks are from El Salvador. Both my mother and my father. They met when they moved to San Francisco by chance, kind of happenstance, and it's a beautiful story actually. By accident at a club in the Mission. So yeah, and they just both liked each other, were attracted to each other, and one thing led to another, and they had me.
Just an only child, or yeah?
I have a younger brother, 3 years old. Super proud of him. We're somewhat estranged, and the last time I went to go visit, which was 2 weeks ago, some some things from the past kind of came up, and he was able to. I'm glad that he was able to open up and share how he felt and as to why he has this animosity towards me. Um, but regardless of that, I still love him, still proud of him. Uh, he was in the military for almost 20 years, Special Forces Green Beret, and yeah, he's seen some things. So what he's gone through, he won't divulge, he won't share. I don't ask. There's an etiquette towards anyone that's in the military, um, and unless they want to share, just leave it be. So
What a contrast in lifestyle type thing.
yeah, he's very structured, disciplined. I'm more floating in the wind, vagabond, nomad.
So would you consider yourself a nomad right now?
I would, especially with the way that things have been in the last 3 years with my relationship. Um, Being separated from a partner that you've been with for 12 years, and your life changes, and bringing two children into the world, uh, especially with the industry that I'm currently in now, the camper van industry. It requires me to travel a lot. I call myself a modern day land pirate.
So how did you come across that line?
Actually, it was out of necessity. I was the owner of what I felt were successful shops, men's lifestyle shops, which included apparel, furniture, artwork, accessories, apothecary. The focus of those shops was American made, American heritage. Um, One thing that I learned about that experience is that I was good at being an amazing front man, not good on the financial side. And so I reached out to a colleague of mine that I knew was in advertising, and because of having these shops, I really took a liking to social media and learned how to just make quick edits for a niche market, and had asked if he knew anyone that maybe had that need, and rather than telling me, yeah, I actually know people, he's like, hey, actually I have a someone who has is looking for a sales manager in the van industry. I'm like, sure, I'll take it. And that was that was 3 years ago.
Yeah, because I met you maybe like 7, 8 years ago.
Yeah,
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 and you were marketing. You were working for John Barbados, right?
yeah. Well, that particular role, I was brand ambassador slash GM, and I made it a point to really build a team that understood today's um, how can I word this? Understand where we are today when it comes to the shopping experience. And I was, social media, trying to give a glimpse or a taste or somehow be engaged with what was happening, especially when people didn't live in the area. But for those that were around us, um, kind of give them that FOMO, the fear of missing out with the things that we did at John Barbados.
It was, and I remember meeting you. I thought, man, this guy has great style, great energy.
I appreciate that.
Over the years, I've always admired the style that you would always bring, and even in the clothing stores that you owned, had just amazing style. Something I wish that was like blanketed across America right now. It seems
I,
like we're always looking to other countries, for style. Of course,
yeah,
some of the most iconic designers here, like just the names, the style we have here in America.
yeah.
What gave you the inspiration for things like this?
What gave me the inspiration? Well, that I trace. I'll go back to my mom when we lived in San Francisco. Initially, I was so fascinated with men that wore suits. It just looked so elegant, so sharp, no matter and important, no matter where they were going. And I remember walking in the financial district with my mom in San Francisco. I think I was about 7 years old. And I asked my mom, like, hey, what do these men do? And she's like, a lot of them either lawyers, doctors, uh, in finance. And I was like, wow. Well, it's like, why? Do you want to do something in that line of work? I'm like, no, I just want to dress like them. And funny enough, I have photos. Um, when I was a kid, my mom always used to dress me up in suits.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And so that, when I moved to New York in 2001, um, it was so surreal to be. I had never visited New York. I just up and left and moved to New York, and to be there and to take a job working at Prada and then later on working at Apple, but being influenced by the energy of New York and the sartorialism uh, that was exuded uh, by different types of people in New York. It was pretty amazing. And from there, it's funny that he talked about style. One thing that I learned: fashion comes and goes. Style is personal. Um, Obviously, I'm not in a three-piece suit anymore. I just felt that I was so conditioned to the structure or the construct of society that you have to look a certain way. Um, but I look back at my style influences. Robert Redford, Steve McQueen, Sidney Poitier. Um, Current style icons for me would be Brad Pitt, Johnny Depp, um,
Very classic, yeah.
yeah,
Classic
Jason
stuff.
Momoa.
Yeah.
And I don't know that I looked to them for style because I adopted my own um, sense of style just based on the things that I liked and based on lifestyle things that if I'm riding my motorcycle, I want to make sure that I'm wearing the right boots. These work because they have a rubber grip at the bottom. The last thing you want to do is have some sort of leather boot that slips off because and then you might drop your bike or going camping. Having wax canvas, especially if it rains. Obviously don't want to drench this, but the water will repel from it. Being four-way stretch jeans, just being able to be mobile.
You think it through. You think it
Yeah,
through.
so I try to think it all through based on the lifestyle.
Do you have any plans in the future to like maybe develop your own line or?
That was a dream of mine, but that changed. Just I admire people that do design and are able to see their brand through. I had an opportunity to kind of develop a T-shirt line called the Dead Legends, and that was just eye opening. I didn't have the time or the patience to drive to LA, to get to the cut and sewers, to go to the garment district, and it was a lot, and that's just for me individually. It's just uh, I'd rather not. I'd rather focus more on like right now. For example, I told you I closed up the shops, and I've actually taken the social media from that shop, rebranded it to a company called the Garage Apartment, and where that comes from is my current living situation. Is I'm living in a garage apartment, and I also think to those individuals that have cool garages, but also it's like a living space. I was actually watching Tron Legacy 2 weeks ago,
That's a good point.
and when a kid pulls his Ducati into the garage, but it's his house, that's kind of like the inspiration. And you're tinkering in the garage, whether it be a car, a bike, or whatever. And I just like that loft garage type lifestyle. And so with that, I decided that I want to focus more on e-com in three facets: camping, moto, and um, apparel. And that's how the garage apartment was born. And then when you look at the coloring of the actual brand and what I chose, it's black and orange. I'm from San Francisco. The San Francisco Giants are
There you
black and
go.
orange.
Yeah.
And then when you go back to the where San Francisco came from, or the Giants came from, they came from New York. They were the New York Giants, and they had the blue, black, and orange. And so I brought that imagery of two iconic baseball teams and put basically fuse those together to create the garage apartment, let alone the influence that I already had from the previous shop. So
Well, I mean, you're always creating. It seems like you're creating. You're a creative person, I should say. I know a lot of what we're doing here is creating content. How has like social media impacted your life, or where do you see yourself going with social media?
how it's impacted my life, I will say that I was anti social media, anti Facebook for the longest time. I didn't want, I don't have anything to hide, but I just didn't want people to, I guess, know where I was. It didn't matter. And then I took a job here in Newport in 2017, and that company required social media. So I just said, screw it, I'll just dive right in. Created a Facebook account. I had LinkedIn for basically more for the professional side, and then Instagram. It was April 3rd of 2017 that I got my first taste of what Instagram was. Um, and so I kind of just took that, started posting. Initially it was uncomfortable because I don't like posting about myself. I feel like it's very narcissistic to sit there and snap a picture of yourself and just post it. Um, and so with that, I left that company. I was done. I was like, I'm closing all these accounts. I don't need it. And then a buddy of mine at the time was like, hey, before you do that, let me ask you some questions. Like, what are you passionate about? And whatever. So I told him, like, American made products. And that's how initially got me into the social media. And eventually I turned away from that, and I wanted to make it a little bit more cinematic. And how it's impacting me now, I wouldn't say it impacts me, but where it will have the impact is when I die, and I now cater more of what I post for my kids. Um, I don't do it for anyone else but them.
Well, you said something earlier, which made me think a lot, was that your voice, your actual voice on your videos when you pass, when we all pass, those videos are going to stay there. And
Correct.
your children are going, and your family are going to go through those videos, because I do see people post years later on somebody's page who's passed away, and in remembrance of, I miss you. I mean, they actually go to those pages to kind of reminisce a little bit, in
Absolutely.
memorial of that person, which was pretty profound for me because I never thought about it that way. I don't post my voice on my videos, but now I should. I mean, you open my eyes to that, and that's pretty powerful stuff.
Yeah, it's death is inevitable, and sooner or later, we're all going to go. I mean, not that I like to think about it, but you kind of have to. Um, I'll be 50 next year. I don't really keep track of age. I feel like by doing so, it accelerates the aging as opposed to not worrying about how old you are.
But it is a
But
big mark in
oh
life.
yeah, it is.
It almost feels like it's a halfway,
Oh
even
yeah,
though we know it may not be the
it
halfway.
mean
But we
exactly.
feel it's a halfway mark, right?
I truly feel because I want to live to 100. I
Mhm.
really do. And right now, as it stands, I want to be able to. I have two younger boys, 8 and 3, and I'm not promised tomorrow. And my oldest, my 29 and my 26-year-old, they've had time with me. And if something were to happen, what lessons and I'm gone, what lessons are my younger ones going to be taught? And if I do that now through social media, that's a beautiful thing. In a way, it keeps I'm immortal in that way for them. Um, People will look at my page and say, "What does camping have to do?" But the voiceover, what I'm saying, the message that I'm delivering, it's intentional because the things that I'm saying and the things that I'm sharing, the topics that I'm touching on, are intended for them. Because if they're ever in a place where they're stuck and they need advice, they could just click on one of those videos and maybe hear something that will motivate them or get them out of whatever funk they're in, or make them understand, like, damn, you know what, dad failed a lot but he kept going. And that to me is better than anything.
Well, I seen your post, and I will say it's never you never come across like you're trying to sell something. It's always it's a message, and that's maybe in the background. But when you talk to the camera or you're just sitting outside, it's a vibe that you give, right? That's a good one. I like it. I really like it. I really admire
Thank
it
you.
because it's more thoughtful. A lot of times people post stuff and say, "Look at me," right? I'm here. I'm at the beach. I'm
Yeah,
doing this something. I'm in Europe. I'm sipping wine over, and I've done it too.
yeah, yeah,
Because you want to share, and I
yeah.
think sharing is caring. That's where it really comes from. That's why I don't chastise people for sharing because it's in our nature to share.
Yeah,
We're a
absolutely.
society,
Yeah.
right? And we've been broken up 1,000 different ways, but at the core of it, we're still a society. We still want to communicate with each other. We still want to talk to each other. And as damning as social media has been, it's also been a huge blessing on a lot of people.
Yeah,
But I think with your messages, I think people really need to look at your page and
I
kind of
appreciate
understand
that.
that it's you. It's not, you trying to pretend to be somebody.
No, exactly, and I'm glad that you touched on that because I think that that was the biggest thing, is that I wasn't authentic. I wasn't my authentic self when I first started it. I was like working for a suit company, and it's like, why is this important? Why is this even? And it's so superficial, so shallow, so surface, and that's why I had a moment when I left that job. I had to go to therapy because I felt, I don't know. I don't know if it was imposter syndrome. I don't know if it was, trying to, my confidence was shot after I left that company. That's 100% for sure, because I just didn't feel like myself. And so I remember going back to Petaluma, and I have the picture. I actually posted it, and I stopped and I looked at my reflection like, who the fuck am I? I don't know if I can
Yeah,
curse,
yeah, yeah.
but
Yeah.
it's like, how did I lose myself? How? And I just remember looking at me in the town that where my folks brought me to have a better life, and I'm grateful for the fact that that they did take us out of an environment and brought us to what they felt was a safer environment, and it was, and that's when all these memories started kind of my it flooded my mind, riding my bike everywhere, discovering, playing baseball, uh, discovering all the creeks and all the trails. And Petaluma was a population of 24,000 when I first moved there. Now it's like closer to 80,000,
Wow.
and there was so much more land. I remember being able to at night look up and see the Milky Way. Can't see that now, all the light pollution. But those are the things that flooded my that came into my mind and all those memories just came flooding, and it was weird. It was like downloading, and boom, and like I had this moment where like, wow, like those were the things that going fishing all the time, going to the creeks or the lakes and jump, the
Good
swim,
memories, yeah.
all the things that made me, that I had fun doing. How did I lose sight of that? Like now I'm about to get into fly fishing because of the camping, and I remember driving the camper van the first time, and again, I had another moment where it's just like, this is where I need to be because my dad would take us camping all the time, and those are the things that fill your heart. Those are the things that are joyful and basically feed your soul. And everything came back full circle. My dad went on one of the trips with me
Oh,
in the
really?
van, and he puts his arm on me, and he has this silly smile on his face. What are you smiling about? He's like, I remember I used to be the one driving you in the camper van, and I'm here with you, and you're the one that's driving, and I get to enjoy it. And I'm like, well, I'm glad that,
How was that moment for you?
oh,
I mean,
dude,
you always had a good relationship with your dad?
yes and no. That moment was very, very special. And again, like I said, it came back full circle because I think that that's what life is, right?
Hmm.
Your parents take care of you, and eventually it's your job to take care of them because they sacrifice a lot of time to raise you, that was a special moment, and I'll always cherish that. As far as the relationship with my father and my mother, actually, I had a great childhood with them. It was my teenage years that things kind of turned around because of some things that happened between my mom and my dad, especially you know certain things with my father that happened. He witnessed one of my uncles in Italy get killed, like, on a head, basically head-on collision. And when you're 11, 12 years old and your father comes back different from that, you're selfish. You don't like, what's wrong with you? Like, why aren't you paying attention to me? Or what happened to the man that before he left to Italy? And yeah, and it wasn't until years later where you live life a little bit and you're like, you empathize and you're, wow, I completely understand why you did what you did and why you came back the way you were, why certain aspects of your life changed. Um, and so I was able to reconnect with my father. I was estranged from him for like 5 years, from 20 to 25. And at 25 years old, I made it a point to just have a very heart to heart conversation, and our relationship has been amazing since then. My mother, not so much. It's been a very challenging, I would say, 20 plus years, but we're
Wow.
working on it. I don't give up on her. I still love her, and I see her every time I'm in Petaluma, you know. So,
Well, it's good to hear
yeah.
that you're not giving up.
No, I think love trumps all. And so you have, I'll say this, I think it's important for people to talk, to basically take anyone that's toxic out of their life. And that includes family. If
I
they're
agree.
not, if they're going through their own things and just can't seem to get past it.
But do you agree there's a limit to that?
Oh,
Because you
100%.
can't affect your life, and especially if you have children, right?
Yeah.
You're bringing them with you on that journey again and again, and it can be extremely toxic.
Oh,
And I think,
100%.
at some point you have to draw the line and stick to it.
You do. And I mean, this last time around, I gave her an ultimatum and said, look, I'm done. Like, I can't, this is it. Either make sure that I want to move forward.
Mhm.
I don't care about the past. I can't change it. It's done. Tomorrow, it's not promised. So stay right here with me. Stay in the present. And that's all we can do is try to be better today.
Well, you're kind of like me, is you had kids young too, right? You had your oldest when you were really young, like
I was
me.
20. Yeah.
And now you have a new set.
Yeah.
How's that different from the first? I mean, are you doing some things different now that of course, we can always look back and say we could have done things better. But now you actually you have more experience under your belt. You've owned businesses, you've traveled a lot, you've been all over the place, done crazy careers, a lot of things. And now with this new set of kids, how do you deal with them as opposed to probably the other ones
It,
when you didn't, right?
well, the difference being is that obviously maturity. uh, far more selfless, being of service to them, understanding that th- these are formidable years, and I need to be there to help shape them. And I will say this, I'm grateful that I have work that affords me the luxury to be home. I travel a lot, but then, like, look, I'm here for another week and a half before I go on my next trip, and I work remote. And so working from home, that helps out a lot, and I couldn't see it any other way. And
But I love what you're doing because I remember my kid as a child. My best memories were sitting around the campfire,
yeah,
camping, road trips.
yeah,
Right, those were the best moments.
yep.
And I wasn't worried about going to Italy as a 8-year-old or going even to the
Yeah,
beach.
they don't care
It was
about that.
about just
Yeah,
being with my parents or my dad in that big old station wagon that he
yeah,
had, and just driving around, camping, finding spots to sit and eat.
yeah.
Those are the best moments, and now you get to do that.
I get to do that exactly. And for example, uh, when we got our company, I get to drive around in a Sprinter camper van, and I made it a point because I was about to leave on a long trip. I took my my 8-year-old camping just right by San Juan Capistrano, Casper's, and for him, he thought he was somewhere else. And what did we do? Yeah, and it was funny because I wanted to get ribeye and potatoes, and then their mother's like, "Well, that's for you. What makes you think he wants to eat that? He wants to go to In and Out." And I'm like, "Massimo, what do you want to do? You want to go and cook ribeye and some potatoes and veggies, or do you want me to get In and Out?" It's like, "I want ribeye." It's like, yes.
That's your
So
son.
I was able to pull out the iron skillet. He helped me set up camp. I posted up a video of the whole experience because I want him to remember that. And I know it's some people it might be contradictory for to say, well, if you're because I'm about the moment, but are you truly in the moment if you're setting up a camera? Yeah,
We all struggle with that, I
yeah,
think. Yeah.
right. I struggle with it, but then I am in the moment because I want to capture, and it's not staged. Like this was an actual raw moment where, all right, Mijo, we got to set up the camp,
But I
set
think
up
we
the
beat
fire.
ourselves up a lot
But
because as kids we didn't have that. But I wish we would
yeah,
have. I mean, I wish I could see videos of myself sitting around the campfire with my father. I don't have
yeah,
any of those videos
yeah.
because
It's all in
it's
here.
all in
And
there.
initially, that was my mentality.
Mhm.
It's like, oh, you take a photograph with your mind. But man, Paula, when she was pregnant with Massimo, I just remember she would get upset that I didn't take any pictures. And then towards the end, I started taking, pictures of her pregnant. And yeah, as soon as Massimo was born, are you kidding me? Like photos all the time. And then,
But it's not just about them. It's also about when they have children
yeah,
because that memory's gone with you, but it's gonna stay with them.
yeah,
It's gonna stay with their children, their
yep,
grandchildren. So you're right. It's kind of being immortal. Those
yep,
videos, and if you do, I think the way you're doing it, capturing moments, forgetting it's there, but at least you're still capturing the moment. I don't see nothing wrong with
yeah. I hope not,
We'll
and
see, right?
I hope that, when they get older, they'll be like, "Yeah, I'm glad that my dad did that." Because guess what? Funny enough, my dad and my uncle when they had cameras, like, dude, they had the ones with the film in it,
Yeah.
and my uncle, he filmed everything, and my dad got access to all those films, and he's basically making digital versions. And I look back, man, like that was their social media, and I'm grateful that my uncle had that camera. He filmed all the camping trips. He filmed parties, everything. And I look back, man, and it's like I remember that. So
It's
yeah,
so nostalgic to
yeah,
look at those old camcorder videos,
absolutely.
and they're classic. And now people are actually going back to that to give you that nice vintage
hmm
look. But that's the way it was back then.
It
Um,
was yeah, it wasn't what it is today. Like you pull out a phone and bam, you can take instant video. But yeah, just for me, it's about the moment, being present with them, um, and I think that that's the biggest difference is that I get to be present, I get to be
yeah.
in the moment, and today I stopped work I didn't stop working. I just paused. 2 o'clock. My younger one and I went to the pool for an hour, and then I was like, "Oh shoot, I gotta go get ready because I got this interview."
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you coming, but also I wanted to ask you too, like, what do you, for the next chapter of your life, right? And hopefully there's many more chapters. You've come to this point. You're here. I mean, you're here in Newport Beach. You've lived a pretty good life. What's next for Martin?
Next, I want to be able to execute on the garage apartment. Uh, I want to continue to go on epic trips, be able to take the kids, and just do my best to live every day as if it was my last. You know, some people feel like, I ride motorcycles and obviously they're dangerous. I don't think that the motorcycle is dangerous. I just think motorists, drivers are dangerous. They're so distracted.
Have you ever had an accident?
I did. I have. I September 17th of 2013. I was on the 133 about to merge on the 405 North, and my front tire, I had a Ducati at the time, hit gravel, and it did what's called a ghost slide. The bike just slipped, and I couldn't stabilize. It was, the handlebars were just shaking, and I went down. I actually got cut up pretty bad. Had a lot of road rash. Had a big hole in my wrist, my knee. I didn't break anything. Luckily, I thought I was dead. And then in 2018, late 2018, I had a woman cross the double yellow line in the middle of morning traffic, and I was on my Harley at the time. I had to slam both of the brakes. I fishtailed, and I'm going straight in. I thought I was going to go straight in through her rear window, but as I got closer, I let go of the brakes. It popped back and got straight, and I was able to swerve out of the way. I lost it. She almost killed me. Um,
And why do you still ride then?
because I'm free. I It's for my mental health. I don't think of anything when I'm on the bike because I'm constantly aware of what's happening around me. But when I'm just on a road with no one to worry about, it's so liberating. And
Well, freedom seems to be real important for you. I mean, just in the things you've said and your lifestyle, being out in the open, not being in a corporate job or behind cubicles, things like that. It seems to be really important for your life.
very important. Um, I mean, I don't know that any of us is truly free. We're still tied to government. We're still tied.
Well, me and you've talked about politics a
Yeah.
lot in the past.
We
I won't
have.
get into that here,
Yeah.
but we kind of both feel that we're losing a grip on our freedom here.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, and it's scary times because I feel like we're in a time where what's bad is good and what's good is bad, and the lines are blurred. And yeah, if people don't wake up,
What do you think about your kids, though? I mean, imagine like my kids are a little older, but I mean, if I had younger kids, I would worry, about a world that we had freedom growing up. Me and you, we're kind of similar. We're
Yeah.
born here in the United States. We have parents from different cultures, but we've always had freedom to do whatever we wanted. We didn't think of limits or we're Latinos, but we can't create businesses. Nobody ever told us we couldn't do that.
yeah,
know.
I agree.
And we can buy a home. There's a lot of things we can do, right,
Yeah.
for our lives. Build a business, whatever we want to do. The sky was the limit. But now it seems like, oh, you don't have to own a home anymore.
Yeah.
A lot of things are being told you can't do anymore.
Yeah, very
And
true.
I see that now as having a history, in this world. And it's a little scary to see our kids do that. But I think the way you raise them is going to dictate how they go.
Absolutely, and I think that Paula and I, we co-parent in a way, and we're always on the same page. Well, 90% of the time. But it's good. It's interesting to want to put, to plant that seed in our kids to know that they can do anything that they choose to do. It's important. You want to learn how to ride a motorcycle? Let's do it. You want to play soccer? I hope that, Massimo, he's playing right now, and he's in his second year, and it's so amazing to see how quick he took to it. I hope he's the next Messi. I don't know, but unless we try, we have to try in order to find out what he likes. Same with Alessandro. He's getting into soccer this year. He's 3, and I can't wait to see what he does. But we always want them to try new things, and not to limit them, because both Paul and I want them to know that the sky the sky isn't the limit, because there's space beyond the sky.
Yeah.
Reach for the stars.
Well, I know I'm going to put you on the spot here for a second, but when you said that, these videos that you do, it's going to be your voice, right? I mean, you think you could say something to your children right now if they're going to be watching this one day? Is that a little too tough?
No.
I mean, if you can say something to all your children right now.
Yeah. So Jovan, Julian, Massimo, Alessandro, just want you to know that you all mean the world to me. And what's interesting about being a parent, doesn't matter what, you as a child, love is infinite. There's not one child that I love more than the other. I love you all infinitely. And I'm proud of all of you. And I just want you to know that no matter what you choose to do in life, just do it because you love it. There's an adage that find what you love and you'll never work another day in your life. And I really hope that you can find that. It took me 40 plus years to find it. And those the things that I loved to do when I was a kid. I loved to fish. I loved to camp, ride my bike. How I do it now, yeah, I'm going to start fishing again. I camp, and I ride motorcycles, and never stop being a kid. Be responsible, but never stop being a kid. Remember that.